Hello again, college football fans. I'm coming at you with your final SEC Power Rankings list. Can't believe we made it through the season. I would also like to congratulate the conference for getting 13 eligible bowl teams together. I'm pretty sure that's never been done in any conference before in history. So, once again, the SEC is proving that it does indeed matter a little bit more down here when it comes to college football. Jumping right in, number 14, Vanderbilt, staying strong where they've been all year long. No surprise there. Number 13, Florida, because of the jaw-dropping, just unprecedented collapse. Maybe not unprecedented, but it's definitely the worst collapse we've seen in quite some time in our league, and that's why they've wound up at 13. And I'm pretty sure I've said all that I can say about that through the season. Heard the other day that they have hired Billy Napier for Florida. I know that he's been a name that's been bantered around a lot for these open coaching jobs, and I know he's got a pretty good reputation behind him, and he's probably known as one of the top 2 or 3 mid-major, up-and-coming type head coaches. So we'll see what he can do at Florida. A lot of times those hires turn out to be blockbusters, you just never know. Very few times are hires sure things, and even then, things can go wrong. So we'll see how Napier can do at Florida. From what I understand, he's not going to get a very full cupboard to work with as far as talent goes because of Mullen. But fortunately, the expectations will be tempered a little bit, I think, coming into his first season. He can't do a whole lot worse than what they've seen this season. Now, he might surprise me, but we'll monitor that as we go forward. Now, the next few teams all have identical SEC records at 3-5, and it was a little bit difficult for me to figure out how I was going to separate them and rank them. But number 12, I've got South Carolina, and number 11, I have Missouri. And the reason I have those two there is because their 3 wins are all against, both of them have 2 wins against the bottom two, Vandy and Florida. Missouri, I'm put them at 11 because their other win was South Carolina. Now, South Carolina's win was against Auburn, which I have ahead of them. But that, Auburn was one of the lower teams when it comes to SEC rankings. So that's why I had South Carolina and Missouri at 12 and 11, and I went ahead and gave Missouri the head-to-head because they had pretty much identical resumes, except for Missouri had the head-to-head win over South Carolina. Number 10, I have LSU, and I have LSU ahead of both of those 2 teams below it because it had more impressive wins. It lost, some teams that it lost to a non-conference team, and it lost to some really good SEC Western teams, but its wins were against much better wins than both South Carolina and Missouri had. Its wins were against Mississippi State and Texas A&M, and also Florida, but State and A&M are more impressive wins than anything Carolina or Missouri were able to muster. So that's why I have LSU there. And then I have Auburn ahead of LSU because not only does Auburn have the head-to-head over LSU, but its other 2 wins are very impressive. Ole Miss is one of the best wins anybody had in the conference all year. And then obviously beating up on Arkansas was also pretty impressive. Those are 2 very impressive wins. Unfortunately, they weren't able to close out the season very well, or they would have been much higher on this list, and Harsin would have shocked a lot of people with what he had done with that team this season. But, they played well against the Iron Bowl, and that's another thing. Missouri lost. South Carolina got hammered by Clemson, and LSU and Auburn had very good performances. I mean, Auburn going to 4 overtimes with Alabama is pretty good performance, and LSU beating Texas A&M is a great performance. So, coming on at the end a little bit better than the other 2, so that's why they were ahead there. Now, from this point forward, it was pretty easy. These next 2 teams had identical records, both conference and overall, Mississippi State and Tennessee, and I got State at 8. And Tennessee at 7. Both of their wins were the best win for both programs, and it was against the same team, Kentucky. So I just gave the nod to Tennessee mainly because they won their last game. Mississippi State did not. And I think Tennessee's ceiling may be a little bit higher than Mississippi State's. So I just went ahead and gave them the nod. Also, it was an East-West thing, and I gave the West down here in the lower tiebreaker. The West got the nod, and so I went ahead and gave Tennessee an Eastern Division team the nod over State in that sort of a tie kind of situation. Number 6, I got Texas A&M, and I think they may have had the only 4-4 conference record and 8-4 overall record, I believe, and so that was pretty easy to put them where it was. They have the best win that any team has in the conference all year over Alabama, and so that should have put them ahead of Arkansas, which I have Arkansas at 5, but I couldn't because Arkansas also had a great showing against Alabama, and if the ball bounced a couple of different ways in that game, they could have wound up with a chance to have a walk-off field goal just the same way the Aggies did. So that's why I have Arkansas ahead of Texas A&M. And then it gets very easy. You got 9-3 Kentucky team. Mark Stoops, another great year for him, and he's getting some looks now from big-time programs, from what I understand, and he might wind up landing a big job before it's all over with, because we just heard today that Brian Kelly has gone to LSU. That's huge. But that means Notre Dame's got a spot that's open now. Oklahoma's got a spot that's open after Riley has gone to USC, and so we'll just see. We'll have to monitor that, because this could be the last year in Lexington for Mark Stoops. Who knows? Maybe the family name will get him an interview out there in Norman. So, and which would mean he'd be coming back to the league here in a couple of years. So, lots of goings on. Obviously, this time of year, the coaching carousel is crazy, and we have to keep a close watch on all of those developments. Number 3, I have Ole Miss. For obvious reasons, they've got the best record outside of Tuscaloosa and Athens, and they were this close against beating Auburn, and which would have put them in a pretty unique situation, being a one-loss team and not even going to the conference championship, but that didn't happen. So, and then obviously you got 2 Bama, 1 Georgia, and you might think to yourself, well, next week you'll have to do a new ranking, but I'm not, because obviously those 2 are playing for all the marbles, and if Georgia wins, keep this list exactly the same, and if Bama wins, just flip the 2. Then Georgia goes to number 2 and Bama's at number 1, and obviously we will have a lot more to say about how I think that's going to turn out in Atlanta coming up. So I haven't really decided if I'm going to do just one big preview and prediction video, or if I'm going to break it up into 2 or 3. I guess you'll know that as they come out. And thanks again for watching. Thanks for going through the season with me. It's been very fun, great season. I've really enjoyed it as a fan and as a little makeshift commentator that I am now, and also as a Bama fan. I mean, I've complained for the last few seasons that it seems like Alabama just goes through the motions until November, and then we have to wake up, and sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But I've complained about October and September being pretty boring for Bama over the last several seasons. Not the case this season. So lots of chewed up fingernails and rapid heartbeats this year, but that was fun. It's fun to feel like a real team going through a real season with lots of adversity, and we'll see how it winds up. And thanks again for watching.